Welcome to a WKR layout update. Wanted to kind of keep you advised as to what's going on. We're taking a pause in operations while we're doing some upgrades to section 10, which is Robinson Oil. And you can see the tracks are a little bit obstructed by our work and what's going on. So let's fill you in quickly about what is going on. We obviously removed the backboard on this module so that it's a lot easier to get to, since this is right about in the middle of the module widthwise. And one of the things we had to do was remove the gravel from this whole area and some asphalt road that we had put down there. Heavy trucks are going to run on concrete. And speaking of concrete, this is basically what we use. This is a product called, well, it's had several names. Silly Winks, Silly Foam, Funky Foam, but you get it at Hobby Lobby. You can get it in 2mm or 3mm thicknesses. This is 2mm. I made a template to find out exactly the shape we want it to go in. And now I've gone ahead and painted the upper surface and all the edges, because putting it into already finished scenery, it's a lot harder to try to paint the edges after you got it installed. This portion is installed. And let's take a look at what we've accomplished so far. If you look back a few videos, whenever we've serviced at Robinson Oil, basically all we had was just the tank shapes. They really weren't even tanks. And we didn't have the two horizontal tanks in the center or any of the piping. So what we have added so far is all of the piping is hand-bent brass rod. Each tank now has a vent on the top. We've added these are 3D printed tank set. We've also added overstairs to get over the pipes that are on the ground. And we've got a control panel, and we've also got a waste bin for any oil absorbent materials that they need to cover spills. Now you notice that this is sitting outside of the dam or the containment pit, and because we have to close box everything on the layout when we ship it, this has to be removable. Now we've got the oil tank farm back in its containment housing. I do need one more thing. I need another set of stairs on the other side in order to get in or out. But we did that. We call that phase 1. We've also pretty much completed phase 2. You notice the empty hole here. This goes for the truck loading platform. And this fits in here and is also obviously removable, and this is where we're going to have some trucks. I found these trucks. These are 3D printed on shapeways. Need to get them painted and detailed, but I've got enough room for 2 trucks to be serviced on either side of the loading platform. So basically phase 2 is nearing completion. And phase 3, which we're going to get started on here very quickly, this is a loading platform that I also got on shapeways, and you can see that it curved. Apparently I didn't check my mail every day, probably sat in the mailbox too long on a hot day and got curved, but that's okay because I really only need about half of it, and I can straighten out enough of it so that it'll look just fine. But we have to get this paint and detailed and put in a containment pit area where we would be unloading the tank car that would be positioned there. So once we get this completed, phase 3, then we'll get back to operations. And it shouldn't be too long, maybe another week, if that much. We'll see you then.